Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about something that's always been of great interest of mine, and that is eclipses. Because the eclipses are where Rahu and Ketu are. And I wrote a book, this was 2017, I wrote my book on Rahu and Ketu. And this goes through all the different eclipses that we had as they go through all 12 signs of the zodiac. And so Rahu and Ketu, their cycle are that they will go through the entire zodiac of all 12 signs every 18 and a half years. Rahu and Ketu stay in a sign for 18 months, for a year and a half, if I'll say. So Rahu and Ketu, wherever they are, when the sun and the moon align with Rahu or Ketu, this will be a solar eclipse. So when you have a new moon with Rahu, that's a solar eclipse. Then 6 months later, it will be with Ketu or vice versa. Because consider this, Rahu and Ketu, which Rahu is the north node of the moon, Ketu is the south node of the moon, they are exactly opposite. So if it is a year and a half that they will go through all 12 signs, they will come into opposition every year, 6 months apart. And when they do, then we have the eclipse season. So the eclipse season is going to be where first you have either a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, or sometimes you have the solar eclipse and then 2 weeks after follows a lunar eclipse. So a lunar eclipse is when you have the full moon, but the sun and the moon are going to be tied up with Rahu and Ketu. Either the moon will be with Rahu or Ketu, and the sun will be with either Ketu or Rahu, but they're always in opposition during the full moon phase. This is points of change. And let me just say, the signs that they're in really dictate what's happening. So many times you've heard me talk about, before it happened, that every time Rahu would go into Gemini and Ketu would go into Sagittarius, we always had a catastrophic event. And I was able to predict the COVID experience, everything that happened with the virus when this happened. So in this book that I actually wrote in 2017, I predicted that there would be an event in 2019 and 2020 that would rival all the other events, which was when Rahu was in Gemini and Ketu was in Sagittarius. So every single time, well, for example, in 2020, February, March, was when they came together around the same portions of the zodiac that they did 18 and a half years prior to that, which was 9/11. 2001. Then I went back 18 and a half years prior to that, and we came to 1982, which was the AIDS virus. Then we go back again 18 and a half years. We come to 1963, which was the assassination of Kennedy. And let's go back one more, 1945. That was the bombing of Hiroshima. So you see, I knew something where great death and calamity, and it would change the world forever, like all these other experiences did. And that was in 2020. Okay, so what do I see now? Because every single time we have some amazing events. While I have your attention, don't forget to sign up for my free newsletter. It's absolutely free. You'll get all of my predictions delivered to your email address. Go to galacticcenter.org, and while you're at my website, check out my magazine, Joni Patry's Astrology Insights. And you can find out all about that magazine, which is only $9.99 a month on my website, galacticcenter.org. So going into now where Rahu and Ketu are right now and what it brought about in the past. Because right now we have, I think it's really important, I've got to share this with you, Rahu is in Aries and Ketu's in Libra. And I went back to the last time that they were right at the degrees that they are now, which they are at 5-6 degrees. That's where the solar eclipse was in April, and that's kind of sets the mark for the next 6 months. The last time that they were 5-6 degrees of Aries, Rahu was there and caused the eclipses to happen at those degrees. It was 2004, and at that time we had that massive tsunami. If you remember, it was in December, I think it was the day after Christmas, that it hit Thailand. And I mean, it wiped it out. There was so much death and destruction. It was horrific. And because this is in the same portion of the zodiac, there's something that of same likelihood that may occur before the end of this year of 2023. So watch and be prepared. And so where do I see it happening? Well, I went and looked up the eclipse lines to see what was going on. And I happened to see that these eclipse lines, let's see, for two, and what I mean by an eclipse line is really the path. So what is the eclipse path? Where you can see the eclipse most visibly on planet Earth is usually where the most calamity is due to happen. Doesn't always work like this, but it's pretty accurate. So this April 20th eclipse, again, is over Indonesia. It really crosses over the top of Australia, New Guinea, and on into Malaysia and all that area, and up close to, you know, Japan is always ridden with earthquakes and such, but this is the area, Malaysia, that looks the heaviest hit. And another thing is, I'll get to this, but another eclipse pattern that is due to come in 2024. This is April 8th, a year from now in 2024. We're going to have it's going to be in Pisces and Virgo, the eclipses. I'll fill you in more with that. But one thing I do want you to know about that one in 2024, it goes directly through the center of the United States, right smack dab over my city, Dallas, Texas. But it's like that is the line in the path. So it tells us that there's massive changes coming for the United States. Right now, around the Australian area and Malaysia, that is going to be more affected at this time, close to China too. So looking at this, yes, and the lunar eclipse was most visible, the one that happened on May 5th and May 6th. There was a lunar eclipse, and this one was most visible over Asia, Australia, the Indian Ocean. All of that area is heavily influenced by this eclipse energy. And because the one that occurred in 2004 had so many repercussions with earth changes, tsunamis, and all of that, I want you to be aware. This is a time that we have to be cautious and look out for these massive earth changes, because not every eclipse causes earth changes. Going back to another time that Rahu was in Aries and Ketu was in Libra. That was also during the time of the stock market crash of 1929. So that's another thing that's going to hit us. These ups and downs, radical changes with the economy, with finances, with money. That's what this Aries and Libra axis is going to bring. But the most important thing is to realize that this is with Rahu being in the sign of Aries. This is a sign of breakthroughs, aggression, everything to do with what Aries is all about. And the stars that are there in that portion of Aries, El Sheridan, Menkar, those stars deal with aggression, violence, and events that we don't see coming, sudden, unexpected events. I think they have a lot to do with earth changes. So I just wanted to fill you in on these eclipses and the fact that K2 is in Libra. For everyone this year, we have to really look out for how we react in our personal relationships. Libra's all about that. It's about marriage, relationship, how we treat one another. And this is a big learning curve. I think the way that relationships are evolving in all of our lives is changing. And we've got to look and take care of each other. This is a turning point for humanity that the eclipses are happening in Aries, Libra. Aries is new beginnings. Libra is all about finding balance and transitioning through this evolutionary change of new beginnings. That is what's happening. While Rahu and K2 are in Rahu and Aries and K2 in Libra. And in this book, I went through all the different signs that Rahu and K2 transit through, as well as how Rahu and K2 will affect you personally. So if you're interested in my Rahu K2 book, I've written over 11 books. They're all on my website, galacticcenter.org. What that will do, you can purchase it. It goes right to Amazon, where you can order it in either Kindle or in paperback. So with that, I'll close. I hope you enjoyed this talk about the nodes and eclipses and what they're all about. They really do create the radical shifts and changes, because don't forget, Rahu and Ketu deal with our destiny and change. And when you put them with the lights, the sun, which gives us life on the planet, the moon, which dictates our internal emotional essence, this is so important. The eclipses are powerful. Go with that, know that. So with that, I'd like to close. Once again, if you're interested in learning Vedic astrology, don't forget I have an online school, and you will be able to read the charts as I do. I will be your teacher. Go to universityofvedicastrology.com. Thank you.